Good evening, everybody. I'm super pumped you're all here. My name's Ryan Carr. I'll talk a little bit tonight about myself, but mostly I want to talk about all of you and your goalkeepers. A little bit about my background. I think it's important for everybody to understand the lens through which I see sport and performance. The first is always an athlete. I was an athlete, still an athlete, always going to be an athlete. So I always view sport through that, specifically the goalkeeping position. I played at the University of Hartford in Connecticut, had some amazing people help me to get there. And yeah, I still see sport as an athlete because I still play. I'm also a coach, soccer coach, goalkeeper coach. I've done my advanced national goalkeeper license a number of years ago and been coaching goalkeepers over the past 20 years. My first job was being a coach at 15 years old and still do that today. And then my other lens that I view things through was strength and conditioning. I've been a strength and conditioning coach at the Division I college and pro level for the past 20 years. So I see the physical aspects and injury prevention and athletic enhancement and performance. And then the last one, most importantly for tonight, is sport and performance psychology. I did my master's degree at Seton Hall University and my doctorate through the University of Western States. I believe as professionals and coaches, we have a responsibility to give our athletes and their parents the best product. So I think that the educational pathway is really important, as well as you got to be out there doing it. Specifically for my own personal work, I own Carr Driven Performance, where I do mental performance consultation with athletes in person and virtually around the world, around the country. And I also work for IMG Academy doing similar work. So that's a snapshot of kind of my background, so you know where I'm coming from. Tonight, we're going to really cover four areas. One, talk about the demands of the position, which I'm sure a lot of you know. Second, the demands on all of you, which I know you know, how to support your goalkeepers. And then lastly, how to support yourself, because there's a lot of stress that comes from being the parent of a goalkeeper. I want to tell you a quick story to get started, then we're going to open it up to all of you. 2006, I finished my college playing career. And I was a starting goalkeeper at the University of Hartford for 4 years. Had great coaches growing up, had amazing club experiences, did all the things, right? Checked all the boxes. My senior year, I get invited to the Major League Soccer Combine. I'm one of 4 goalkeepers in the country to get invited. I fly out from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Los Angeles, California for the Combine. Now, all the MLS coaches and scouts are there. And I've trained my whole life for this moment. The only thing I want is a professional contract. Lifting weights, running sprints, doing plyometrics, traveling, as you all know, to all over the place to play soccer. But it doesn't work out. For 4 days, I play the worst soccer of my life. And on Sunday of the combine, the last day, I'm heartbroken. My emotions are all over the place. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to call anybody. I don't want to talk to my parents. I don't feel like I let them down. I don't want to talk to my coaches at my college or club. I feel like I let them down. I feel like I let my whole college community and my hometown community down because I was supposed to make it. Now, that day I went for a walk and I asked myself one question along the beaches of California. Why? Why for the last 20 years did I travel? Did my parents travel all over the country to play soccer and do all this specialized training in camps, et cetera, to fail? And I didn't know the answer, but it put me on a journey of coaching, strength and conditioning, sports psychology, goalkeeper coaching. And now I know why. It's so I can share that journey with all of you so you can equip your goalkeepers with the skills that I didn't have. See, through all that professional training, I was still lacking training of the mind. We train our sport, we train our bodies, we get fit, we get strong, we get in shape, but very few people train their mind. So if you take nothing else away from this tonight, it's this. Seek out some resources for both yourself and your goalkeepers on mental performance training, sports psychology, because it is the next wave in performance enhancement. And more importantly, it's injury prevention for the mind. People talk about, hey, do strength and conditioning so you don't blow out an ACL, so you don't sublux your shoulder. But people don't talk about strength and conditioning for your mind. So today we're going to talk about how we can be preventative with injuries to the mind and maybe lessen the chances of going down the roads of performance related anxiety, performance related, some highs and lows, maybe even slipping into depression. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. As we jump into things, I want to talk about the goalkeeper demands. So in your chat box, these are just some of these things that I thought of. What are the demands of the goalkeeper? Do they need to be perfect? I see that a lot. Everything is just so. A mistake is fatal. Nothing is ever good enough. But I'd love for all of you to go in the chat box and just like, what are the demands that you see placed upon your kids? Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to type away, and then we'll break some of that down. All right, cool. I'm going to jump in the chat box, have a peek at things. Yeah, you get blamed for a loss. Absolutely. The weight of the team is on your kid's shoulders. Yeah, it's a lot as a parent, huh? They need to be perfect and not let in a goal. Must play perfect every game. Being the one to carry the team. Can never make mistakes. Yeah, I love that, Laura. Making up for defensive mistakes. Oh, don't worry. Your kid will bail my kid out. Being the captain of the defense. Yeah, so leadership. Absolutely. One mistake shows on the score sheet. I love that, Rambo. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And I mean, I'd also love if people can just type in, how old are your kids? Just type in their number of their age. I'm imagining we've got like 10 to 18 or 20. Nice. Okay, 13, 13, 10, 10, 16, 16, 9. Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility for kids 9 to 18 years old. Yeah. So I think it's important. We all know this, but it's kind of nice to hear other parents like, there's a lot of pressure put on your kid. So let's just be aware of that. What can we do about that? We'll jump in a second. But I think just knowing, hey, man, you're not alone. We can take some solace in that. Okay. So you are not alone. Let's talk about the demands of a parent. Now, I have 3 children. That's probably the most important thing I didn't tell everybody here. They're younger than your kids. They're 5, they're 3, and they're 5 months. Okay, and I just left my oldest son's first club team tryout ever, right? And what are we? Your chauffeurs all over the place. Club soccer, that's a big responsibility. That's just not on your kid. That's on you. You're also a shoulder to cry on when things don't work out. That's hard. Seeing your kid really upset after a loss, and maybe another kid is like, you should have saved that. Well, what about that kid that didn't make that ball that was like 6 yards away, that sitter that they should have tucked away? Nobody talks about that, right? Nobody talks about the kid who got beat before it got to your kid's goal against. So you're the shoulder to cry on. You're the chauffeur. You're also the foot up their backside, right? You're the foot up their backside when they need it. And that's a lot of things to be for your kids. Go back into the chat box. What else are you? What else are the demands that are placed upon you as a parent, just in general, but also like the parent of a goalkeeper? I'd love to hear. I'll pause for 30 seconds so you can add it in. All right, cool. Therapist. Yeah, good call, Laura. I don't know what your profession is, but yeah, you are, if you're not a licensed clinician therapist, but you have the role of that, don't you? Have to be at every game so you don't let the team down. Yep. Somebody else, therapist. Yep. Cheerleader. Love that, Kate. Yeah, you got to encourage them, right? Encourage them, hype them up a little bit. Hey, you got this. They're not feeling confident. Oh man, on the car ride over here, they seem a little bit off. I'm going to hype them up. Their trainer. Ralph, I'm so glad you brought that up, right? Because goalkeeping is a very specific position. And I'm gonna come back to the chat in a second, but I really think this is an important point. As a parent, you end up being their coach sometimes. And I will say, as a parent, if you can attend as much goalkeeper training, I know there's already a lot on you, but if you can be there and just watch and talk with the coach at the appropriate time and say, hey, like, what are some basic things I should know? Because I don't know about you all, but I did not have a goalkeeper coach until I was like 15 years old. I was self-taught. Like I went to a couple camps, I had a notebook, and I wrote down every damn drill. Everyone, stick figures, lines, the ball, arrows. And you know what I did? I went home and I'd have my big brother or big sister shooting on me as I was doing these drills. And I'd have my stepdad, who was my soccer coach, taking that and doing that stuff with me because it's expensive to get goalkeeper training. Sometimes there's not one in your area. But I think if you can be a resource for your kids, and that's why I love what Eric's doing here with United Goalkeeping Alliance, like they have great resources and videos to watch, which is sweet. So yeah, be their trainer. I know I can be a slippery slope sometime. Recruiting coach, yeah, talk about that. Going to college. Team mom. Everybody knows a goalkeeper mom. I love that. That's good. Manager, set the tone for the parents, their advocate. Yeah, that's good. When they come home, have to restore the battered and bruised bodies physically. Yeah, goalkeepers, we get our butts kicked. Like by the time I was, I don't know, finished my college career, I had 2 shoulder surgeries, 1 groin surgery, multiple broken fingers. You get beat up. Oh, nice. Emily, cool. Invested in a mental coach for her early to remind her to do those mental exercises. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So again, there's a lot on you. There's a lot on your kid. There's a lot on you. And I will argue that there's more on you than there is on other parents. I mean, I'm biased, but it's true. So my question to all of you, and I'm going to just pause and maybe if you want to just like unmute yourself and jump in, please do. What do you do to support your kid as well as support yourself? Don't make me go teacher on you and I'll call on people. Rambo, are you there since I know you a little bit? No Rambo? Eric, you got anybody to call on?
Sorry, I'm here.
Hey, Rambo.
Because I'm just a coach, I don't necessarily have kind of the parental feedback. So it's interesting for me to hear what the parents are adding to.
Yeah. So that's okay. Let's go down that route. Like hearing all of this, I'm sure you've heard some of this before, but maybe some of it you're hearing the first time. Like as a coach, what do you think is useful for parents to support and surround themselves with as well as their kids?
Well, and part of the reason why I'm on the call is just to understand a little bit more as well. It's that parents need to, all of the things they said are all so important for the kids' support because it is a very individualized position and often they are on their own and we train alone.
Yeah.
And when they're part of the team, they don't always feel as connected. I know when I was a keeper, it was always, I was like my own little team.
Yeah.
And now as a goalkeeper coach, and again what you said about Eric and the alliance is awesome because now we've created a community, so we always try and create that community so that the other keepers, and I think this is important, I know in the club that I'm working at where the keepers can talk about things together and it's a little bit different perspective than talking with your defender or talking with your coach, and sometimes different than mom and dad.
Yeah. That's a great point. The community aspect, right? And if you're in a club, thank you for sharing that, Rambo. I appreciate that. I love that idea of community, right? If you're in a club, something I always try and do with my club goalkeepers and my college keepers that I train is like I leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end of training, right? Just for space, just to talk about, hey, what's going on? Oh man, I let up a bad goal the other day and real soon after, somebody else is like, "Ugh, yeah, I had that too. What'd you do after it?" And they're like, "Man, I punched the post. That wasn't smart." And they're like, "I've been there too." And sometimes just giving our keepers a space to like vent and hear that they're not alone and other people can empathize with them, I think that's really important. The other thing that I think is important, the second thing is when you have older keepers in a club, say that 13-year-old training with the 11-year-old or the 10-year-old, having a good role model is super important for them, right? I remember being a freshman in high school and my brother was a senior, and the goalkeeper for the starting varsity team was like this cool guy. He drove a cool car, and I was like, oh man, this guy is awesome. But like he really modeled great behaviors and trained hard, great attitude, great energy. And by the end of my freshman year, they were pulling me up to varsity, and he was picking me up and giving me a ride. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I didn't want to let him down. Like I wanted my work ethic to match him, right? So I think creating that community of role models and people to follow, and then the older keepers, when they're teaching, it's reinforcing some of the things they're learning. So I think that's really important to create that community. And as parents, if you're at goalkeeper training, maybe there's 5 to 10 other kids there. Rather than like being in the parking lot or just doing your own thing, strike up a conversation, put yourself out there a little bit because I think you could really have some good resources there. Anybody else? I'll pause for another second of what you surround yourself with or who you surround yourself with as resources for these demands.
Kind of that joy and love of it, because there is so much kind of stress and heaviness for the game time and everything. That's kind of
Yeah.
my cheerleader point that I tune in on.
Nice. You said, so you were breaking up in the beginning. Was that Ralph? You said the joy and what was it? What else was it?
I just really try to keep it fun for him,
Yeah.
and kind of remind him why he loved doing it in the first place.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, hey, that's why we play sports, right? For the joy of it, for the fun of it. That's cool. Thank you for jumping in, Ralph. I appreciate that. Cool. Let's talk about next points, and that being, what's important when it comes to our keepers. They all practice soccer. I said this earlier, right? They all, maybe not all, but a lot of them train their bodies. But again, the one thing that most of the time is left to chance is going to be their psychological mindset. So I'll give you some quick resources that I think are really important, both as parents and for your keepers. Different books, like my go-to, one of them, and we'll talk about it in a second, is called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. And it's all about having a growth mindset. There's different podcasts that you can reach out and look at. There's different certified mental performance consultants and coaches that are out there and that have extensive education that you can have them work with your kids once a week, once a month. Um, I think it's important in supporting our keepers that we have rules on game day. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was playing at Hartford in college, from like 5 hours south of there. And after like the first year and a half, my mom would come up on a Friday. We'd have a Saturday night game. Her and my stepdad would be nothing but supportive. But by the time 10 a.m., 11 a.m. rolled around on Saturday game day, I was a jerk. Nobody wanted to be around me because I started going into the zone, right? I could hang with them Friday night. I could hang with them Saturday morning, go out to breakfast. But by the time lunchtime came, they realized we're out. We're going for a walk. We're going for a bike ride. And I think that's something that's important that you talk about with your kids on game day. What's our rules? Are you okay if I like talk to you on the way to the game? Or do you just need to zone out and listen to your music? I want to pause there for a second, just open it up to everybody. Um, does anybody do certain things on game days, or more importantly, not do certain things on game days? Throw it in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself. I see Sam said Mine is just like that. He does not want to talk. Just listen to Eminem. There you go. I love the post match. I was going to get into that, Eric. 24-hour rule post match. I'm imagining we're not talking about the game. Emily, cool. No phone 1 hour before the game. Nice. We also try to visualize. That's awesome. Man, I could go down the phone route, but I think it's probably been beaten to death. I don't know if it's things have been changed on it, but your kid's mind is already distractible at these ages. Putting a phone in front of them only makes that harder, right? So on game day, we want them to focus. I think it's a good idea to have a window where we shut that down. So I love that idea. Cool. Screens, love it. We warm up our goalkeeper separately from the team for 15 minutes ahead of the game. I love that. I was just talking to a dad about that the other day. Heavy on routine, same food, music on the way, no electronics. That's great. Routines such as, hey, this is how I pack my bag. This is how I warm up. This is the playlist I listen to. That can be really important for supporting your goalkeeper because routines give them a sense of control in a very uncontrolled environment, right? It allows them to feel like they've got power. So I've seen people take routines too far where it becomes superstition. Hey, if I don't put put this knot in my shoelace exactly like this, or to do my left before my right, I'm not going to play good today. That's taking it too far. But having some sense of this is my gear, how I pack it, this is what I do, that's helpful. That's good. No talking in the car on the way, earbuds in, listen to their game day playlist. Cool. Second rule, one. Well, oh, okay, cool. Jessica, I like it. 1 second to feel sorry for yourself. That's great. 1 second to learn, then the mistake is gone. I love that. That's what we call a mistake routine. So I teach all my goalkeepers that too, Jessica. I'm glad you brought that up. You let up a goal or something doesn't go your way. Unfortunately, there's a pause in the game, but at the same time, that can be a time to do something physical. Maybe you pick up a piece of grass, you throw that piece of grass away, clap your hands, next play. Their mind is going to go somewhere. So if they have a place to put it, such as a mistake routine, now you're directing that in a direction that you want rather than them going, oh, man, I suck. I'm slow. The team hates me. I should have got that. Coach is going to bench me. Their mind's going to go somewhere. So having a set routine will direct them where you want them to go. Cool. I believe I am. My son takes a shower before the game. I used to do that too. Sweeps off her shoulders. Yeah, like she's brushing it off. Good. These are great. So I think the biggest thing is ask your kid, hey, what's good for you on game day? Because some of them are going to be like, leave me alone, don't talk to me. Others are going to be like, I like to keep it fun and light and joke around. Okay. But it's got to be specific to them. Okay, post game. So, Eric already brought it up. This 24-hour rule of not talking about the game. Whatever's going to work for you and your kiddo, that's most important. Some kids may need to let it out right away. A lot of them, it's give them time and space. Okay, one of the best college soccer coaches I ever worked with, when we were in the locker room after a game, it was, gentlemen, I'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll talk then. Because there's so much emotion going on for everyone. Yourself, you may feel bad for them, you may be super hyped for them, but I think it's important just give a little cooling off period, whether that's walking from the field to the car that evening. I put down ice cream because, man, just take your kid out for ice cream afterwards, or just do something fun. Are you going to do it every game? No, but I think there are times that are really important that you just take them out, and it's nothing to do with soccer. It's just like, hey, let's just go have some ice cream. You're my little boy. You're my little girl. I get you. And then lastly, I put dream team here because it's important for us to surround them with a dream team. Maybe their grandparent is the perfect person because grandma or grandpa knows absolutely nothing about soccer. They don't care about it. They just love your son or daughter authentically. And that's a good person for them to see the day after a really hard game. but you know your kiddo best. And I think it's important that we surround them with people who are, yeah, soccer experts and strength and conditioning experts, mental performance experts, but at the same time, like just great people in their life. All right, let's move it on. Talk about supporting you guys as well as parenting. I'm not here to tell you how to parent, but I'll tell you two areas that I believe are very important when it comes to supporting yourself as well as your kids. The first is what I talked about earlier, the book Mindset by Dr. Carl Dweck, having a growth mindset. And pretty much the whole premise of this, if you haven't read or seen any of her work, is focus on effort. And when a kid can't do something, finish that sentence with yet. I'll give you a good example. My 5-year-old, he's over right now. We're just finishing up doing his first club team tryout. Now, the kids who are trying out are not 5 years old. They're 7 and 8-year-olds. My wife and I both played college soccer. We are not crazy parents where we're like, hey, we want to make him get a college scholarship, be a pro soccer player. I don't care if he plays soccer. I just want him to be happy. I want him to love whatever he does. But we put him in that tryout because at 5 years old, I think it's really important for him not to make the team. Because we're going to take him out for ice cream tonight and say, hey, bud, you tried so hard out there today. And I don't know how it ended. He might have gotten knocked over by a bigger kid and he's really upset and it was a hard day. And that's okay. But I think it's really important that we teach our kids to fail on smaller levels. So when you go to the MLS combine and you fail on a really big level, it doesn't feel like the world is crashing in on you. So I think it's important to focus on effort with your kids and everything they do. Hey, you didn't get that ball. Did you try your best? I did. Did you listen to your coaches? Yeah. Were you set at the right time? I don't think I was. Okay. Well, let's work on that this week, man. Tomorrow, the next day, you want to go out to the field? Let's see. And then the second part is, yeah, I'm not good at crosses. I'm not good at back passes. When we hear those sentences, helping our kids reframe it to, yet. But what could you do to get better at crosses? Have them design the training plan. I was teaching my kid how to snowboard this year. I live in Lake Tahoe, California, in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Like we live a mile from a ski resort, right? And he's a really good skier. Like he can shred, but snowboarding is hard. It's hard to learn. And when we're going up on the chairlift, I'm like, hey, dude, how can I coach you best today? And he's like, Dad, I don't know. I'm like, well, okay, let's just do one run and I'm not going to talk. He's like, yeah, Dad, just don't talk. So it's so freaking hard, but I just shut my mouth and bit my tongue and I'm like, oh, like get that shoulder back, get on your toes. Nope. And then we designed a system of he's not, oh, Dad, I'm not good at snowboarding yet. Let's do another run. And we designed a system of communication that worked for him. And he was the center point of it. And it was, Dad, let's do every other run. So you can coach me on this one, but the next one, I just want it to be a fun one. Cool. Put your kid at the center point of the decision making around those things. And I think it's really hard because you want to jump in, or at least I do. But B, it gives them a sense of autonomy, right? And the world of sport and performance psychology, motivation and wellness are based on three things. I know what to do, competence, that's number one. I feel like I have a say in it. That's autonomy, right? And then the third one is relatedness, having good buddies to do it with. So I think if I'm always thinking when I'm, around my kids, do they have a say in what they're doing? Are they proficient in it? And then do they have good friends to do it with and good people to support them? All right, and then lastly, empathy. It's hard being a keeper. I think we established that, but just sitting with that hardness and not trying to fix it is important. Man, we got our butts kicked today. We lost 6-0. It's a hard day, bud. That was a tough one. And just allowing them to express what's going on, I think, is really important. I want to pause there for a second because you all are parents. You're all are experts in this area. Jump in the chat. Tell me, what other things do you use in your parenting skills that you feel like could develop some of this growth mindset, resilience, mental toughness with your kids? I'll give you 30 seconds. I'm gonna scroll through a little bit. Ooh, Eric, I love that. Can't is a swear in our training. I want to touch on that for a second because people talk about self-talk, right? And it has to be positive. I think self-talk just needs to be focused on what you want to do, right? So rather than, hey, don't step backwards, don't forget to set at the right time. Let's focus on step forward, attack the ball. So just be mindful of like how your kids talk about their experience on the field, right? And how they talk about instructing it. Maybe have them coach you if you're out there working with them, and they might say things like, don't let your hands go back before they come up. Oh, how can we rephrase that without the word don't? Oh, how about this? Hands forward. Because when we coach, when we talk with our kids, when our kids coach us, and we have that like bidirectional communication pattern, and they focus on what they want, they're more likely to do it. It's, hey, don't miss. Don't let that ball go through your legs. You're more likely to let that ball go through your legs. Don't think of a pink elephant. You're more likely to think of a pink elephant. So as we're doing stuff in our everyday life with our kids, focus on what you want from them. I say to my 3-year-old, I'm guilty of it. Don't spill your water. Oh man, how about hold your water strong or something like that. So just be aware of the words don't and can't and focus on what you want them to do. Rambo, reinforce communication with teammates and coaches, i.e. let the kids speak their own minds and words. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Christina, I like this. Reminded my goalkeeper that the ball got past all the other players before it got to him. Absolutely. If it gets to you, then somebody else messed up. It's true, right? Like maybe it got to you and the center forward like did not close down the ball when they should have right after they lost it. Yeah. Everybody on the field is human. I love that. That's huge. So I think the more we can have those conversations, the better. And the more we do it when they're in a calmer state of mind, like you just tied nothing, nothing, or your team won. These are conversations we want to have and really plant the seed before they let up the bad goal. They lose the big game. It all falls on them. Cool. Encourage the leadership skills that go beyond soccer. Absolutely, Jessica. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to highlight that today. Like being a goalkeeper, yeah, it's hard. It's also super fun, man. And it develops you for life. The leadership skills, the amount of pressure, the sense of how final it can feel when the ball goes in the back of the net where you make a big save. I think that's really important that we highlight. Cool. All right, let's go into this because this is near and dear to my heart. So when I did my doctorate dissertation, I did it on mental toughness, and I spent 13 weeks with a high school female soccer team. And over the course of those 13 weeks, we measured mental toughness every 2 weeks through the mental toughness index, which is like a research validated scale. They answered like 10 questions, scale of 1 to 7, Likert scale. Then every month they had open-ended questions like, hey, what's your level of mental toughness? How are you feeling right now? What do you think is contributing to it? Well, if you're not feeling mentally tough, what's going on there? And this 8 tenets are the 8 tenets of what mental toughness is. And to build mental toughness with this team, we did 3 things. One, we added pressure training. We made things hard. So in training, we put time limits on things. Hey, you've got 2 minutes to get 3 shots on goals. Goalkeepers, you gotta have a 75% save percentage here in the next 5 minutes, and we'd have somebody taking stats. We always added pressure in. but we supported them with psychological skills training. So we did things like diaphragmatic breathing. We taught them to regulate their emotions. We did things like self-talk. We taught them as they step between the pipes, I'm a beast, I got this, motivational self-talk. And then we also taught them things like instructional self-talk, nose over toes, because their mind is a water bottle. Why is it a water bottle? The mind's going to get filled up with something. And if you fill it up to here with the self-talk that you want, motivational, like I got this, I'm a beast, brick wall, I can do all things, as well as instructional self-talk, attack the ball, nose over toes, top hand. Now there's less space in their mind for negative self to come in. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means there's less space. So anyway, all of that being said, over 13 weeks, what happened? We saw a dramatic increase in mental toughness by putting them in pressurized situations, making training hard, but supporting them with self-talk and diaphragmatic breathing. And these 8 tenets are the tenets of mental toughness. Their focus went up. Okay, buoyancy, their ability to handle things outside of soccer, like in school and relationships, also got stronger. Context knowledge of the game got better because we challenged them when they were pressurized situations. Their emotional regulation, never too high, never too low, got better because they were using diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, the ball went out of bounds. We taught them to breathe during pauses in the game. Their confidence went up, which is generalized self-efficacy. They were more optimistic. Just overall, there was a little bit more lightness about them. Okay. And then they were able to overcome more adversity and they had a more successful and motivated mindset. Okay. So by teaching your kids just those 2 things, you don't need to have a master's or a doctorate in sports psych to teach them self-talk. Okay. There's 3 things that my kids always say when we're about to do something scary. Okay. They're at the top of a blue ski run, or they're about to go in and do some soccer game that they're a little nervous about. I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm confident. We're going mountain biking. There's a steep thing they're about to drop in. I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm confident. And I think if they just have that self-talk, that mantra, whatever you want to call it, that they do in all aspects of life, and you're there just as a reminder, hey, bud, hey, girl, what do we say here? I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm confident, I can do all things. And then, boom, send it. And they might fall on their face. That's okay. You're there, you got them, you're going to help pick them back up. But I think mental toughness, we got to put them in situations that are hard, right? But we can't put them in situations that are too hard where they're going to sink. And we got to support them with some of that psychological skills training. I want to pause and just get all of your feedback. Again, you're all parenting experts. Like, what do you do to either make your kiddos uncomfortable as well as give them some skills to deal with it? I'm going to pause for a minute so everybody can jump in. Feel free, put it in the chat or unmute yourself. Oh, I like what Megan said here. I'm just reading through. My son has a
Hi,
goal.
I'm
Oh,
actually Megan.
hey, Megan. Yeah, go on. Get it.
So I think allowing the opportunity for my son to play up when asked has been really empowering for him. And he actually got to make that team. He earned a spot on the team. But he lost the first 5 games with them as a goalie but he just won one last weekend and it felt so good. And just reminding him to keep going and it's not his fault.
Yeah.
And expressing my pride in him for just being courageous enough to step up to that.
Yeah.
And luckily we were surrounded by great parents, great coaches, and great teammates.
Yeah.
And he feels good every time they ask for him to come back.
Yeah.
So just empowering him. I know how hard that was for him, but he did it.
Yeah, you highlight some really important points there, right? You, your family, your son, you guys took a risk. Um, but it sounds like it was a calculated risk because you knew the environment. It sounded like it was going to be a supportive environment. But at the same time, you praised him on being courageous. I love that. And those first 5 games, I'm sure that was tough. If I could ask you, what did that look like the first 5 games? I mean, you sounds like you had some good support, but what are some other things that helped him get through it, helped you get through it?
It was tough. It wasn't all on him for sure.
Yeah,
I could tell when he was in his headspace. And so he just doesn't look as confident. He's not yelling
yeah,
as much to the team. He's not taking as much command as he does with the other team. So on a water break, I went over to him and I was like, they need to hear your voice. You're the cheerleader,
yeah,
you're the leader. You
yeah,
know, it's okay to use that.
yes,
And just reminding him of his skills that he already has and
yeah.
how he can use that within new opportunities or new experiences.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you brought up the communication piece. I was actually, who was I working with? It was just, I think it was a soccer player yesterday I was working with online. We had a Zoom session and her and I were chatting about that exact thing. She's like, when I get too nervous or I start, this is what she said. She goes, I start overthinking and then I'm not in the flow and I'm not just playing and I make mistakes, right? And we talked about going external and communicating with your teammates and how that can just snap you out of being in your own head and like ruminating. So I'm so glad you brought that up. That, yeah, that's a great idea. Like get them communicating as much as you can to get out of their own head. Nice. Um, I want to be mindful of time here, but I got like one or two other things. Nice. We see a therapist, not specifically for sports, but just because of the family, we think it's an important medical checkup. Absolutely. It's helped with his confidence and resiliency. I could not agree more. Sam, your name looks super familiar too. I feel like we crossed paths back in the day. But I agree, man. Like just I think normalizing seeing a counselor or a mental health therapist, and that's not my specific place that I work in. I'm more along the mental performance side of things, but I think just normalizing that in our everyday life is super important because I call it playing with a weighted vest. Like if you've got a lot of stuff going on, and you're not working through that, what we resist persists. And you're going to be playing with all those emotions on your back. And now you can't jump as high. You can't run as fast. You can't hit the ball as far. So I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a super important point. Um, I love Emily said guest play with other teams. I think that's great, right? Exposing our kids to different environments, to different coaches, to different teammates where they have experiences that don't go so well and then others that do. I think it just makes it a little easier when they do go to that next tryout. Yeah, Steven hit that too. New situations. Oh, love it. Joining a band, learn to play chess. Yeah. I am a firm believer that being a multi-sport athlete as well as like a multi just rounded individual is super important because what I see a lot of at the college and pro level, I'll introduce myself. Hi, my name's Ryan. How's it going? And they say, hey, my name's so and so. I'm a goalkeeper. I'm a soccer player. And that's a really dangerous place because when they get injured or they don't make the team or now they're not starting, who are they? So their athletic identity is wrapped up in their personal identity. Are they going to be part of that? Absolutely. But I think when we develop more of a robust, holistic person of I'm not just a soccer player, I'm multifaceted. When things don't work out, they know that there's something else. And that was me 20 years ago, right? I finished the combine, I fail, and I'm like, who am I now? I'm not a soccer player because I certainly screwed that up. And that was a hard point. So I think just developing a robust personal identity is super important. Cool. Mistakes are how we learn. Yep. Failure is feedback. I always say that, right? Like a little mini failure. Oh, I messed this up. Okay, it's feedback. What would you do next time? Cool. All right, cool. How do we instill confidence when coming back from a concussion or other injury? This is our third time and there is more uncertainty than before. I'm actually going to appeal to Eric to maybe sometime we do a whole session on injury, because I just actually did a presentation with 150 orthopedic doctors and physical therapists out here in Tahoe about this topic. Here's the long and the short of it. Number one, get them around other people that have been through a similar injury. Okay. Number two, keep them training on what they can do. They broke their leg, do handling. Concussion's probably the hardest one because you can't do much, but making sure they have a proper like return to play protocol, they have autonomy in it, competence, they know what they're supposed to be doing, and that relatedness, going back to self-determination theory, make sure they have a say, make sure they know what is next, and then set specific goals. Not, hey, when am I going to be back? But more, hey, this week our goal is, lay it out. Because then when they hit those little micro goals on the days, it's like, hey, you hit it. Good. We just did the treadmill. Now we can do some up and down, some push-ups to squats, some burpees. Okay. Oh, that didn't feel good today. All right, we're going back to the treadmill, but guess what? Tomorrow we're going to hit that again. So small process goals rather than just the outcome goal. That's like, I could do 2 hours on that, but we'll talk about that another time. Cool. Eric, if you see anything there that I'm missing that are big rocks, please jump in and let me know. Kind of scanning through quickly. Oh, confidence. Yeah. Cool. I want to address confidence because it's the biggest thing I work on with people, right? And the research will tell us from Alfred Bandura back in like the 70s, 80s still stands true today. The M's of confidence. One is their mood. How do you influence mood? What I talked about earlier, self-talk, diaphragmatic breathing, imagery, all of those mental skills can influence their mood. And when you shift somebody's mood, it can put them in a psychological state to perform a little better, and then it reinforces a positive loop, right? So using mental skills training to influence mood, super important. I always have my goalkeepers write their self-talk on a water bottle, like cool, calm, confident. I like to use alliteration when I personally play. What do I say? I say position, poise, power. I like that because when my mind starts drifting to like, oh, second guessing and my confidence is dropping. Nope, position. Position means I'm in the right position. I got a good chance to make the save. Poise means take a breath. And then power means I know if I'm in the right position, I'm athletic enough to get to almost any ball. So I'm going to be a beast and be powerful, right? That's kind of like my motivational hype up. So mood is important for confidence. Mastery is important for confidence. Mastery is reflecting upon their best save. So every one of your kids should have a highlight reel in their head that they view before every game, right? And have them write it out like, oh, I remember when I was playing in New Jersey against this team. It was the second half, top corner, to my left, tipped it over the bar. Sick. And then just have them write down like 5 or 10 awesome saves, because when they reflect back on that, it automatically will give them a little boost of confidence, right? So reflecting on great experiences or other hard things they've just overcome. Okay, so mood, mastery, and then the last one is mentors. Make sure your kiddos have great mentors. Okay, and I'm sure they do, right? You're all invested in them with coaches, goalkeepers, goalkeepers to look up to, maybe professional keepers, this community here. But I'll implore you to also make sure they have a mentor in mental performance. All right, that's my own biased opinion, but I think it's right. I'm going to pause there for a second. Feel free to screenshot this, take a picture of it. This is how you can get a hold of me. I'm happy, to work with any of your kiddos or anybody who you feel that needs it. If you haven't noticed, I'm somewhat passionate about this topic because I never want a kid to go through what I went through as a goalkeeper. And I think, we can have our kids have a lot more fun when they incorporate things like mental performance into what they're already doing with their sport. And B, they're going to kick more ass, that's cool too. But that's my info. Feel free to text me, call me, email me, but I'll pause for questions from anybody. Please fire away. If you don't have questions, Eric has to do 10 burpees. Him and I agreed on this earlier. So
Make it 100.
10 sets
Pipe
of 10,
down,
Eric. You
Rambo.
hear
Pipe
that?
down, Rambo.
I'm gonna steal your position poise power. I love that.
Yeah, that's my jam. I go back to that
I
all the
think, yeah,
time.
I'm gonna steal that. I think that's amazing.
Right on.
You're good,
And by
coach.
steal, just borrow it.
Hey, the best coaches are the best thieves. That is what one of my mentors taught me.
I can share that with a lot of kids.
Come on, you guys got to have some questions.
I have a question about
Yes.
staying humble
Yeah.
in this. So my son is 10 and he started off the season by saving 4 PKs in a shootout,
Mhm.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it gave him such a head. And he felt super invincible, which is wonderful. But
Mhm.
then we got like he got a quick reminder with 6 goals scored on him the next weekend. And then he went into a headspace. So how do you find that? Like you were talking about writing down your 5 best saves. He could tell you all of them.
Yeah.
But how do you also stay humble in the process and know that there's more work to be done, even after those great moments?
Definitely. I'm gonna answer your question with a question real quick. Megan, you had chatted earlier. Was he up on the team that's playing up?
He was not. No.
Okay. So I think a couple of things. I think my head goes to environment. Like, can we challenge, and sounds like you're already doing it, right? Can we challenge him a little bit more, whether that be train with the team that's the next level up from him? Or is there other goalkeepers in the club that are a little bit older, a little stronger, a little faster, a little better? Can we do that? Can we have a conversation with his goalkeeper coach to, you know what, like sometimes they need a little session, let them know, like, you're good, but bro, you're not that good. So a little humble pie session, but that's one that you got to really trust that coach, right? To kind of, sneak a few balls through left, right. I think that's important, but I think naturally the environment will sometimes give that to them. It's like, but we don't want that 6 goals to come in too quick. So I think quickly intervening, like, hey, bud, what'd you do well today? Oh man, I made those like 4 sick PK saves. Sweet. Good job. All right. Any areas of opportunity, things you could have done better? Well, I made those 4 saves. What about in the first half? Like, I noticed you were kind of close to the line and they played that through ball. And yeah, they hit it wide, but could you have come out and collected that? So I think just talking about there's never a perfect game and always striving to be better, but we're kind of on the opposite end of the perfectionism now is what we're talking about, right? So I always ask my keepers at the end of a game, second day, of course, or at the end of a training session, hey, share, what's one thing you did well today? Confidence boost. What's one opportunity for you to get better? I don't say a weakness. That's a little bit, maybe not humility, but a little bit like I'm striving to get better. So, and then what's one thing that was really fun? Those are my 3 like go-to questions. One thing you did well, opportunity to get better. How'd you have fun? So that's where I would take it, Megan. That's a really good question.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And
Glad.
my former student is actually his goalie coach, and he does not go easy on him. So sometimes I think he's going to get decapitated out there. They have fun together. He actually encouraged him to do keeper wars, so we're doing that in Fredericksburg in June.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, but he didn't want to do it last summer, but I think now he's empowered him to do it this
There you
summer,
go.
so we're going to do it.
Well, if anything will humble you, it's going to out of your bubble, right? It's going out of your pond to a bigger ocean, whether that's another team, just a regional tournament or a goalkeeper camp. Like that's always great to do too. And goalkeeper camps I love. Like I used to run them for a lot of years and through Star Goalkeeper Academy. And I think it's so good because you're around a community and people who get you and stuff like that. So if you can send your kids to some camps, I think that's always cool.
I really want to thank you for doing this, and also I appreciate this community too, just as a parent,
Yeah.
because my son was like this power forward in rec, and then all of a sudden became a goalie. So I did
Yeah.
not see this coming in my life. And so I'm trying to immerse myself in the world. So I appreciate this very much.
Yeah, definitely. You're doing it. You're doing it. That's awesome. I appreciate it. That all goes out to Eric, man. He's set this up and crushing it. So, any other questions? All right. Well, you all feel free to hit me up if you need anything. Hit up Eric. Continue to use this awesome community, and yeah, look forward to chatting with you more down the line potentially.